All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. It's day two here at MAPIC India 2022, focusing on the theme of moving to the next normal. In fact, I think yesterday we had some power-packed sessions where business leaders discussed about not just sustainability, innovation, but more importantly, creating those experiences for consumers that will also shape the future of retail. And today promises to be no less. Equally power-packed, and with that we'll begin and open the panel discussion right away. The topic is about, again, future of shopping, reshaping the omnichannel and retail digitization for 2022 and beyond. So without much ado, let me go ahead and invite the moderator for the session. We have the co-founder of Find, Mr. Harsha. Could we have you on the stage, please? And joining him, we have the CEO of Spiker, Sanjay Vakaria, and CEO of Tremode, Kapil Makani. All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Harsh, over to you.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. We've got clearly a good short panel in terms of size, but hopefully a deep one in terms of what we're going to talk about. Wanted to break from the trend of having a party panel rather than and just sort of touch upon multiple things. I think we've got two very interesting brands out here. There's one super popular Masi brand, high street brand, which has 300 stores going to about 500 in the next 2 years, 1 year, 3 years. And then we've got a premium brand which actually went from 20 to 15 stores and will probably go maximum to 25, 30 stores in the next 2 years, 3 years as well. And very different ASPs, very different price points, hence very different organizations to sort of learn from. I think today we're going to talk about omni-channel and how technology is playing a role both in-store as well as outside the store, both from a channel mix as well as from a customer engagement perspective. And we just want to start off the bat to understand, you guys have both done omni-channel at different stages. And I know Sanjay bhai has done it across franchises also, which almost no one has sort of figured that out yet. Maybe, yes, success is still an open question, but at least the fact that it's been rolled out there has been good. Just talk about what has been the impact of that so far. Hello? Yeah. Just talk about what has been the impact of that for you in your brand.
So the most obvious impact is the efficiency that it brings to the inventory management. That's one very, very clear impact that I see. But more than anything else, it's also probably the conviction that we all now have that, offline and online does and can converge and eventually lead to servicing the consumer in a much, much better manner. So while we have been always talking about Omni, and I think the last 3-4 years we've been speaking about Omni at various...
10 years, I think.
I guess. But yeah, so you did mention that we are probably one of the few brands or probably the only brand who has undertaken Omni with a pure play franchise model. And it's been a very challenging journey in that sense because franchisees have very different, objectives for doing that business of theirs, and they're always reticent to give away inventory and also to accept lesser margins, which in the case of Omni are lesser because obviously there are other costs also involved. So yeah, while the challenges have been there, and we are as a brand structured as far as our retail is concerned with 100% franchising, so we are not able to run away from that fact. But I am very happy to say over here that my team who's managing Omni and us as management have been steadily increasing our inventory planning only now for Omni business. So till a few seasons back, we were doing Omni through our stores, and whatever inventory was there for the retail was eventually shared between Omni and retail both. But now Omni comes and sits under my retail department. From an inventory perspective, and they have their own share of buy and OTBs that they are allowed. Because, and this also goes and shows that we are more and more confident about the outcome of this business, and the outcome has steadily improved. And it's a sizable and a significant portion of our business. And going ahead, it will kind of continue to see the same trajectory.
So I hear you talking more from the inventory and supply side and how Omni's enabled that. Kapil, for you, Omni's been more on the demand and the customer side, per se. How has that impacted you? You mentioned you now have about all stores linked to your website. You guys are doing shipping from stores. How has that helped from a customer perspective for you?
So, Harsh, if my stores were not synced with the website, so we didn't use Omni. We use a quasi-Omni, as you know. We don't have the stores ordering on Omni, or nor do we have delivery at stores possible. So the quasi-Omni model allowed the inventory of stores to be available to every consumer who visits the website. In hierarchy, of course, you had the website picking up from the warehouse first and the other locations. Over time, we realized that nearly 40% of our revenue started coming from the store's inventory. What that did, it allowed us to increase business by 40%, because if you didn't have that, you would not sell that. From a customer point of view, it didn't really make much of a difference, because the logistics was always outsourced, and we tried to do a one-day delivery. So whether it went from our warehouse or whether it went from store directly to the consumer, time gap didn't really make much of a difference. But yes, 40% revenue increase did come because we could put that inventory available to the consumer. Few challenges on malls and XYZ. So what we did is we put the mall inventory last to fetch, and we put the high street inventory first. First to fetch, and we overcame that issue as well.
You have all stores are company owned for you, right? All of them are within your control.
Yes.
What were the kind of challenges that you had to face when you were implementing these things in your store? So, of course, technology in the store is nothing new, right? You've got POS, you've got CCTV cameras, you've got people counting machines, you've got, you also have loyalty programs, stuff like that. But what were challenges for this that you had to overcome, even though it was a fully company-owned operation?
Harsh, from a technology point of view, there was zero. Because it's all about an API talking with another API and then integrating into everything. The challenge was the mindset of our people. People didn't want their inventory being pulled out through a different vertical of sales. They didn't want their inventory to, get sold from the website. Then they were always wondering about, channel conflict on pricing. And so the biggest challenge was mindset.
And that I can imagine for franchisees is going to be even bigger. What did you do to get that alignment in place? For technology in general, because see, loyalty, you guys have been doing across franchises for quite some time. What was different for loyalty and what was different for Omni when it comes to technology deployment for franchisees?
So I think we really not done too much of a tweak over there. I think, as he said, the mindset was more of a challenge, and hence to overcome that challenge was more important than the technological piece. We actually worked on ensuring that the franchisee also does not lose their money. And also this business was an added business for him. It was not as if he's actually shelling out from his own pockets. So I think overall there was a huge amount of conversations with the franchisees and
any anecdotes you can share which can help us just understand how to have that conversation with the franchisee for some other brand.
So anecdotally, I think the issues were same for every person, right? And what we've actually seen is that Omni works very well with specific stores, and those stores are where probably the teams who are managing the stores are actually working better on, servicing. So there, the issue comes up a lot more because by virtue of them doing their job better, a lot more inventory moves out from those stores, And that's the time when the franchisee comes back and says that, बहुत माल चला गया, जो माल गया उसके ऊपर मेरा margin कम है. I'm losing sale on the physical front. So that's probably one of the biggest cribs that these people have, and kind of we have circumvented that now by having much more quicker refills for that particular store, which are again courier led and not transport led. So we are giving them assurances that there's all chances of us, ensuring that this inventory would not be an issue for you. And so basically, these are regular conversations and comments that we need to make with them, so that they keep themselves engaged and also enthused to help us do Omni. Yeah, otherwise, there are not too many different kinds of challenges, but here I can say one size fits all types.
And what about from the organization perspective? Spiker is a large organization, and historically, of course, structured very differently. What does this mean in terms of creating the right organization structure? Not just for Omni specifically, but the explosion in which different channels are there for customers to shop, and also the unification of the processes for all of those channels put together. What does that mean from an organization perspective?
So I think the reason, so this is our 30th year of our existence, and we haven't been more excited about our lives, So the fact that every single day we find ourselves taking on many more things, challenging whatever is the status quo, has kept our interest very much alive, has kept us quite excited about coming back to work. Yeah. And the main reason is that we have evolved with how retail has evolved in India. Back when we started off, we only had the mom and pop stores to whom we used to serve. And Spiker was also a single product business. We only did jeans. And then the channels, the way they evolved, they actually pushed us to do the category expansion. Shopper Stop came in as the first LFR, and we got our spaces over there. And we found ourselves having 8 to 12 feet of wall space, and suddenly you just can't sell jeans because they insisted that it's got to be the look. And so we started moving into shirts and then eventually t-shirts. And then our own retail happened, and then suddenly it's all about the brand and not as much about the product. So you moved into many more categories which probably we want the consumer to buy in and not go out for any other brand for that particular category. So a lot of Indian brands did not actually move in the way the retail evolved in India. Leading up to the last 15 years where we've seen e-commerce, I think the primary reason why Spiker's done well is because we have very wholesomely accepted the changes that the markets are throwing at us. And as and when we evolved, the teams also kind of got used to this change, and it's become quite second nature for Spiker person to look at new businesses, changing environments, changing models of businesses, changing channels, evolving channels. And hence, Omni was always, or rather digital and the phygital congruence was always very well accepted and welcome at Spiker. So we were very sure that it has to be done. Numbers and results will follow.
What KPIs changed? Give me examples of a few KPIs that you changed in order to bring this alignment.
So first and foremost, what we did was that we created a whole separate set of people looking at this business. Within my e-commerce business also, Omni is separate, and their reporting also is to a separate set of people. So because Omni has a big interface with retail and the physical part of it, we have moved, as of now, Omni under retail. Because we want to, so again, in Omni it will fail if the execution is not right. Right. And the execution is entirely in the hands of my retail team.
Yeah, I mean, we both spoke about how technology is not the challenge. It's the mindset at the store and the operation process of the store.
Absolutely. So today, my retail team owns Omni as a business. And hence, they are more than happy to facilitate, to iron out issues, to create whatever processes are needed for that business to grow. And this also doesn't happen just because we've told them to do it. It's also because the entire team knows that this is the way forward. And they are very, very enthused, right from the lowest rung at Spiker to the senior leadership. Everybody is very sure about where we are headed. In fact, Omni is just half firing. The conversation that we had just before this kind of led me to think this, that We've yet only started doing Omni where consumer is buying online and getting delivered from the store. We haven't yet fired where customer walks into the store and buys into Omni because of missing sizes and an endless aisle as an idea. So I think there's exactly 50% more work to be done, and then the results are going to follow. So I'm pretty excited on that front. We also are setting up around 40-50 stores which are going to be COCO stores. As you said, there are challenges in operations as far as Omni is concerned. If it's a franchise-led operation, we do face that. And the numbers that are coming out of Omni are so interesting that it has actually made us set up and think through of having a COCO store format which can facilitate Omni in the right spirit.
Kapil, for you, the organization is very different from a spiker organization, and by choice and the design.
Correct.
Right? Did you have to make any changes in alignment, or because of the size, then it organically became like that?
You know, Harsh, who better than you knows where tech is taking us? You came and disrupted it, right? So when COVID actually struck us, right, we were like, for the first couple of months, I think everyone
I'd
was
actually
lost,
give COVID
right?
more benefit than me from a
Yeah,
disruption
yeah,
perspective,
yeah.
at least. But
So,
yeah.
you know, it disrupts thought processes, right? And that's from where models evolve, right? So that's when it hit us, and we realized that right now, we got to look at ourselves as tech-driven, right? You need to imbibe tech into your DNA, right? And that's when we started working on the Omni piece and gotten integrators and, APIs to talk to each other and so on. While we did that, we started realizing that the bigger opportunity today is not in, going out there and scaling up from 0 to 100 stores. The bigger opportunity is in reaching pretty much tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, as many households as you can, right, through tech, and because consumerism has kicked off, right? So if you use tech smartly, if you understand it deeply, there's an opportunity to actually get there and make it affordable to everyone. So what we're talking about is, I've always believed India is always going to play on value. It's not about a price, right? It's about value being derived by the consumer. And this is the only way you could actually deliver value at a premium product. So we're not, saying that, okay, we're going to cut down the product and make it a mass product. We're saying we will deliver a premium product to a value consumer, which will be consumed across tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Of course, metros, we always did service. And the only way you could do that is through marrying tech or to imbibing tech and being a tech-first organization. And that's how the whole transformation...
Given the choice and design of the organization that you want to create, what does that mean in terms of prioritizing what capabilities to build internally versus what to actually partner with externally? And again, that'll be very different for Sanjay as well, and we'll come to that. But for you, how does that change the structure, the format in which you will prioritize capabilities between internal and external partners?
Harsh, we all are consumers here, right? Let me ask you as a consumer, when you go to buy something, what do you look for?
I look for quality and I look for value.
Right. So that's what we're going to focus on. Internally, we're just going to create great quality, ensure that value is met. So we will work on product development. We will work on product manufacturing or outsourcing and the brand building, right? Everything else gets outsourced. And that's what tech allows us to do. So to give you an example, right, for clarity, the delivery, do we have to control the supply chain? Absolutely not. You have, a API communicating with the supply chain, which is all automated, right? Do we have to work on the ad tech? Absolutely not, right? That also sinks in. Do we have to work on, just the routine task of, whether it's cataloging, whether it's terms of advertising monitoring, whether it's in terms of supply chain, all that can be taken care of by tech. And we will continue focusing on creating great products to fit the ticks which you will give as a consumer as to what is important to you. So we will work on what is important to the consumer and get better at that. And everything else we will outsource.
Sanjay, for you, is it just economies of scale which drive decision on what to build internally versus what to partner with? Or are there any other considerations out here?
So I would like to go in for a commercial break over here and plug you in over here. So just as as a carry forward of a point which I was mentioning earlier, and also to take off from where couples also ended, I think tech is quite critical, but tech without the right human interface is of no use. I think we wouldn't have been where we are if it had it not been because of Fine. So here's a commercial piece.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And I genuinely feel that Harsh, the way you kind of passionately driven this, and I've never found myself wanting on not being able to catch up with you or to even discuss the most mundane or the most idiotic ideas of an offline guy with an online or a digital specialist. I just feel that eventually all these things only work if the right set of people are driven in the right side in the right manner. So wherever we are in our journey, I think it wouldn't have been there without the kind of support that we've got from Find and from you and from your team. Coming to the next.
Yeah, the question is, what would you build internally and what would you partner externally with? I mean, is that driven by economies of scale, cost decision, capability? In what areas is cost more important versus capability and vice versa?
Yeah. So I think we are not there as yet. So from that perspective, to have an internal team working on everything might be a little difficult and more expensive. This is an area where outsourcing works very well.
Maybe even because of talent acquisition, right?
That's also a challenge. Yeah, and I think that talent really doesn't want to work for an organization like ours today when they have an option of working for Find or the like, you know. So I think from that perspective, we are very happy going ahead with an outsource model. Have the right set of people to look at this business internally with respect to coordination and also expansion and other areas that are needed to be taken care of while we are moving on this journey. There is a bit of, cost does matter a lot in that sense, but today I think our scale is not so big that it kind of warrants to bring that cost in at this point of time. And also it's evolving. So we really are not very sure. Also. That's there. Also from a merchandising perspective, various other areas are there which we need to cover, also understand better before we say that, okay, this is finally the model that we want to work with. And hence, let's start putting money and people and resources behind it internally.
Couple other technology initiatives that you guys have done which have turned out to be really good, or something that you want to definitely try out, that you've seen somewhere?
So what I want to try out is a little futuristic, the metaverse. So when that becomes a reality with 5G coming in sooner than later, consumerism will change, the way we use our phones will change, right? The way we consume, consumer behavior will change, right? So at some point of time, you're going to be sitting back at a Saturday evening on your computer or on your pad, and a thought comes into your mind. It's only a thought, mind you, that I want to get to Beverly Hills and I want to shop out there. Right? And there you go. So if that's the kind of thoughts we're going to start coming up with in time, we have to be on Beverly Hills, right? On the metaverse.
Yeah.
So
2 years out, 3 years out.
So that's the kind of technology we have to start thinking about, right? We have to start thinking about how I could take Harsh to my store on whatever it may be, right? XYZ, and ensure that he could walk through it as though he did it physically, get the experience, because again, we experience everything within us. It's only a notional that is all external, right? We have to deliver that experience to him and ensure we can even deliver the product to him in a timely manner. So I think that's the kind of technology we have to start thinking about and start working on.
Sanjay bhai, for you, futuristic versus more efficiency, where do you spend your time thinking about from a technology perspective?
I would rather spend time on my efficiency building areas. I would like to make sure that so I have a great congruence of offline and online. And I have not yet started, exploiting my offline consumers as much for my online business. So I think that will be a very, very critical area for me to kind of explore in the next
from
year.
Half congruence to full congruence at least.
Absolute. So I think that's next couple of years we would like to spend over there. So CRM in a real sense, and not just loyalty and discounts and points, is where I would like to kind of look and put my efforts towards. Obviously, what Kapil said is again something that we also aspire. But I think we'll wait it out, and there's no bus to be missed out there. So at least from a business perspective, I would like all points to be and all bases to be covered to ensure that it's at an optimum level whenever possible, wherever possible.
What were some of the experiments with technology that didn't work out the way you expected them to work out?
No, we've been that way. I would not say I've been too adventurous on technology. We've been very mindful of what we take on. As I told you that our people's mindsets are very, very offline led. And, to expect them to really embrace so much at one go, and that includes myself as well, would have been, self-defeating in some ways. So we've taken on things which the business needs as of now. It's a need basis. It's not good to have. It's a must to have things that we have embraced as of now. And so like magic mirrors, and there's so many things which have come and gone, even in the retail digital space. We haven't touched, we haven't really gone into and ventured into any of them. So we've been very cautious. We have been very, I would rather say I would been very slow-footed, because last 5-6 years have been tumultuous for all of us, whether it's COVID or whether it was the time just before COVID when businesses were kind of slowing down. So I really didn't want to kind of get into anything which was experimentative in that sense, leading to expenses which probably cannot have ROI.
Kapil, you mentioned loyalty thrown out of the window, doesn't really work, even though almost everyone does it. Sanjay also mentioned CRM in its true sense versus that. What are some of the things that you were not as happy about in the way you guys did some technology experiment which didn't really work out for you?
So, technology, we just started imbibing technology post-COVID, right? But certain things in tech which didn't really work for us is, data analysis. All of a sudden we see if consumer behavior changes, the data you're holding and relying, it just is junk.
Is it focused on black swan events only, or do you think that every 2-3 years there's a black swan event, so it's become a normal anyways?
I think the rate at which the consumer mindset is changing is very fast, and if the mindset changes, that means there's a new consumer. So the data you are, relying on is on an old avatar of that consumer.
Give me an example of that. I mean, what didn't work?
So for example, I'll give you my own example,
Sure.
right? Before pre-COVID, I used to wear a nice pair of shirt and trousers and go to the office, and that's the way I dressed, right? Today, the shirts just line up space in my wardrobe, and I don't even wear a shirt. I wear a t-shirt, because what happened is the mindset changed from casual, from formal to being all prim and proper to being very chilled, very casual. It's all okay. The mindset has changed, and I see consumer mindset changing. And when consumer mindset changes, data collected on the old avatar is not going to work. One was that. Then you spoke about loyalty. Yes. So what we saw is the consumer is now, because of the deals available everywhere, they want instant gratification, right? So they don't want loyalty from, it's a long drawn process, Mindsets have shrunk, the gratification time spans have shrunk, they want things quicker. Earlier it should take a week to get a delivery to you, today they want in a few hours. You see, that's how consumer behavior is changing, that's what the expectations are changing. Like I told you, CRM is a great area. If you can put a lot of money, you can then own that consumer, because then you can figure out how you could, educate them across the process. But it comes with big bucks.
Sanjay, if I was a retailer and a brand, what should I be reading, or where should I be looking to find some inspiration about what can actually change the way I service or serve my customers?
All around us, there are examples of people who have done great, either from a service background or from a product background. So, but I think more so ever, I think it's more inward, it's more internal looking, because we all know back of the mind who our customers are, and we all know that what are the handicaps that we as an organization work with, And so from that perspective, we need to set the expectations right, one within ourselves and one within the teams. I think if we can manage that, the rest is all there for everybody is picking. It's more, I think it got to be internalized in that sense.
So how much time do you spend fixing things versus versus investing in wowing experiences?
I think I spend nearly 100% of my time fixing things.
Kapil, what about you?
Unfortunately, like him, I spend a majority of my time fixing things. But you got into that mindset that just scrap it and get something new. It's quicker to set up something new than try fixing it.
And for you, COVID was that sort of...
Yeah, it was the inflection point. It was the realization. It was where the whole thing.
And where do you look for
accelerated.
inspiration on how retail can sort of change and evolve in the way you serve your customers?
I get inspired by people themselves, by talking to them and figuring out how they are thinking differently, because their thought translates to retail consumption. So that's where the inspiration comes on, talking to them, learning from them.
I think we're going to end with one last question. It's not going to be about technology or retail, but it's going to be more personal. In the last 3 years, one thing that has made you super happy for each of you.
Well, for me, it comes down to technology.
It doesn't have to be that, but I mean,
Sure, I'll tell you why. Because it allowed me to work with fewer people. It allowed me to buy time, right? So when you're dependent on tech, what happens is you free up a lot of your time because it goes into an automation with, and if it's executed correctly, the monitoring is not required because it's not dependent. The dependency is moved away from person to process, and if the process is set right, so that's given me a lot of time. And time for me is happiness. Time for me is contentment. Time for me is freedom, right? So that's how technology has played a role in giving me freedom or happiness or contentment.
So it's personal. It could be personal. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to
so
be.
it's a very personal one.
Right.
The answer is also very personal. I think the last 2 years with COVID and all, we were kind of held up in our homes more often. So I think I kind of got to know my kids much better. They got to know me better as well because
Was it better for them, better for you? Or?
it's better for me because थोड़ा बहुत, they started respecting me. कि, हाँ, इसने भी कुछ ठीक किया है. So from that perspective, yeah, I think it was a great time spent with the family, and a lot of things I had taken for granted with respect to them have become very conscious and on the surface now for me. I have realized that cliched hai, lekin finally it's the family which is much more important, and we need to kind of they need to have their time first with us, all of us together, and then work, and then so on and so forth. But I think we all are in that rat race, so sometimes you kind of miss that. But yeah, I would also like to ask one question.
Sure.
One, the same one back to you. And the other is that where do you think in the whole journey Omni is as far as India is concerned? And what is it that's kind of holding back organizations and this medium to deliver the optimum?
Okay, so I'll answer my happiness question last, but this one, so it's been 10 years for us in building technology for retailers, and we've always started with looking at the store and saying what can we do in the store which can help things better. The biggest blocker that we used to face is a mindset of QSQT, which is quarter se quarter tak. And we believe that such investments are essentially panning out over seasons as opposed to over quarters. And how do we see, there was an instant gratification which everyone wants, right? कि अरे ये मैंने किया तो अच्छा अगले हफ्ते कितना सेल आया, इससे कितना आया वो. But I think the mindset that you need to change or change your outlook towards impact over a larger time frame, because as you both said, I think today or in the last 5 years, Omni's been more on the inventory optimization or sort of better monetization of that side much more than on the consumers, right? And on consumers, every brand is playing catch up with the channels that consumers are using to actually buy them on. And I think everyone's just playing catch up and nothing else there. But the inventory impact that comes in only can happen over 3-4 seasons. Everything from cataloging processes to digitization to store operations, all of that takes time to do that. I think that has been one sort of blocker there. The second is organization structure, right? So we still come back with people saying revenue per square feet, rent to revenue ratio and stuff like that. But if you're thinking of omni-channel as a way of sort of unifying online sales as well as offline sales, should you look at revenue per region or revenue per pin code across all sort of channels that you have? I think that shift is still not happened there, right? Where And I think what you've done with saying the Omni team sits within the retail team and not within the e-commerce team, that's a huge shift. Not everyone thinks like that. So I think some of these things we found it to be tough from an implementation perspective at least. I think it's easy to show that where it's been easy is एक भी सेल आया तो भी bottom line नहीं आ रहा ना, मतलब तो करने में क्या problem है, right? So एक भी आएगा क्या फर्क पड़ता है, bottom line hit होगा, खुश रहो उसमें. So that's why we've seen brands saying हाँ ठीक है चलो यार करते देखते हैं. But to actually go down, putting all those things in line from store ops to catalog, most cataloging processes happened when the merchandise had to be sold online, which was predominantly whole season merchandise there, right? But to do that shift and saying no, cataloging has to happen from day one before it hits the store as well, that change still hasn't happened there. I mean, you're still seeing catalog is 30-40% of inventory. It should be 70-80% of inventory there. So I think some of these things aligning that has been the biggest challenge for us. And I think where we were able to at least get some foot in the door and saying, ठीक है, आप sale करोगे तब मैं पैसा कमाऊंगा मैं, otherwise नहीं. So that has helped us get in there, but to drive real impact is aligning these organizational processes with what an Omni enables there. On the happiness piece, I would say still again goes back to family. We had a baby in the pandemic, so I think that was super amazing to spend that much time there with both me and my wife both working. And I think we figured that work from home was the best thing for us to spend time with the baby. I would say that had to be a lot there.
Excellent.
Very good. Thank you so much, guys, for this. Really appreciate your time and the depth of the conversation that we've had. And wish everyone all the best. And hope to sort of see your brands pushing their envelope with technology a lot more than some of the others that are there.
Thanks, Harsh. Pleasure. Thanks,
So
Sanjay.
appreciate the fact that there are three of us. We got the second sentence in also here.
That's true. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.